Well, goodness gracious, that was some speedrun in action. You are tuned in if you haven't done a quick check of your browser recently. You're tuned in to Speed Gaming 3, one of many speed gaming channels here on SGLIVE 2021. And this is yet another of the exciting The Multiworld Must Grow. That is Factorio plus a Link to the Past randomizer here for the 2v2 Multiworld tournament, Archipelago style. Yes, that's a chain of islands, also a chain of multi-world games. There's like 8 of them now. And this is just a showcase tournament that we are running, an inaugural one. On the left half of your screen, you see Kippi00. They are matched with alwaysintreble. That makes up Moon Spaghetti. Fun little pun play on words, referencing Moon Pearl and the strategy for designing your factory. And on the right, you have Matkap and Eolina, Team Bolas Azules. One of our Spanish teams who are actually looking to try and put themselves in a better position over Moon Spaghetti to earn some of that sweet, sweet cash prize. Our two teams, of course, their goal is to launch a rocket in Factorio and to slay a pig or do the equivalent Zelda goal. Typically in Archipelago races, it is a complete all goals is the name of the actual category, so to speak. So we're off to the races. This is going to be an open start for the Zelda players. We have a pretty large coal patch and a gigantic iron patch swallowing it up. So immediately we'll get started on that burner phase. Alwaysintreble actually into a bit of a head start here in terms of getting that burner phase kicked off. Every second really counts early on in Factorio. Meanwhile, we're going to see a shop sanity seed. 3 keys in the first shop. We get a big key to Hera, a big key to Misery Mire, and a small key to Ganon's Tower. So we're going to blow half of the cash that we start with in Shop Sanity in Archipelago. Unless you specify otherwise, the default trigger gives you 600 rupees. So we're going to be checking for at least 30 shop item slots, or until we know we can beat the game. Of course, if you're not familiar with Archipelago Multiworld, this is a multi-game multi-world. So these two teams of Factorio and Zelda are cooperating together in order to give each other items and progress and win conditions. So if you're familiar with The Link to the Past, you know that that's going to be progression items like your hammers, your fire rod, your bows, boots, whatever it may be that you need. The crystal requirements for Ganon, or even just pulling the pedestal, for example, we don't know exactly what that's going to be, so this is something of a mystery format for them. In Factorio, if you're familiar with the game, the goal is to launch a rocket, which is going to require a handful of crafting recipes, which are in the form of technologies. These get unlocked both by themselves through the tech tree and through their Zelda partner. Now, the Factorio player can see the tech tree from the get-go and can at least distinguish between progressive and non-progressive items. That being said, you may have to do things that aren't considered progressive in order to get to the end, based on the way that the tech tree is laid out, which is one of a handful of different potential settings. Something else to point out about Factorio is that you will always have your own automation, your first one, and your first logistics sciences within your own tech tree that you can see immediately, as well as your rocket silo. The rocket silo is going to show you as well the 3 components you're going to need to craft in order to build that rocket. We're getting a bomb farm here from Matkap on south route to Kakariko, and Kippi, they are going directly into Eastern Palace with nothing but a lamp. The gall of doing this. You'd think that, this is a situation where they might get hit with some Bolas Azules. If they end up having to go through Aghanim. I'm kind of multilingual, but very interesting divergence. Immediate, race game here on the way into Kakariko for Matkap. Between the two Factorio players, you're not going to see significant differences off the rip. They're definitely going to prioritize getting their iron, starting up a lot of coal. Interestingly enough, you see more bias towards iron from Alwaysintreble than coal. Sometimes the smelting cost is related to that. You see them laying down some belts. You got to craft all this stuff initially on their own. Couple of tech things to note. If you hold down the Z button, you can drop things into containers or assemblers or anything at all. One item at a time instead of an entire stack or half of a stack. can be good for trying to efficiently use every single burner. Alrighty then, here we go. Back into Kakariko, finding these Starman items, which are Factorio. We see Always in Trouble checking the rocket. It's a little too small for me to see it. Maybe I can catch that, or if somebody's got their stream open as well. I think I'm actually going to open their streams. That's a good idea. Alrighty, more Kakariko exploration for Matkap. Gonna check the Chicken Shack. It's really hard to say, Chicken Shack, to get one item here as Kippi's going all the way with that lamp to, wow, the big key chest. That's a glove in Chicken Shack. So that's really great for Matkap. That's awesome for exploration, and it drastically reduces the pressure on the Factorio seed to send some items ASAP. Every little component you get towards Dark World in the Zelda side is just going to make things better for launching a fast rocket. And of course, the reason you want to do that, the reason why you care so much about having one player finish quickly, is because every single item location they have left that they haven't checked gets automatically sent out upon completion. Colloquially, in Multiworld, we typically call this forfeiting out, even though you're not really like forfeiting a race. That is a fire rod in the big key chest of Eastern Palace. Holy mackerel, double fire sources here 5 minutes in. That is spicy. Heating up over here in this race, as both of the Factorio players are working on power, it looks like. I believe Eolina might be crafting. No, actually, Eolina's already got some power source going, and is working on initial labs. I see green chips and something else there. I'm not sure exactly what that other item is. I'm about to find out real quick, though. This is very curious. All right, we're going to get a lumberjack check here from Kippi. As they check that, we find just bombs, but Matkap doing all of Blind's Hut, having the much more efficient Kakariko exploration going on here, but that fire rod might not show up or materialize at all for him for a very long time if the rest of the world becomes available sooner. All right, so from the looks of things, the current requirement is going to be burner inserters and green chips for red science. That's a relatively heavy iron requirement, although there is some copper involved there. That is a hook shot in the drop-down of Lost Woods. Zelda players finding a cornucopia of their own items, which is an interesting contrast. Typically, Factorio gets carried by Zelda very early on in the race, for the first half an hour even, as Factorio is really trying to ramp up their science, get things moving, but Zelda says, I am a strong, independent randomizer, and I don't need no factory to send me any items. Powder, also in the Lost Woods. Alright, so some rudimentary science setups here going on for the Factorio players. This is not a convenient way to build your science. There's no just dropping a bunch of things into assemblers. You know, you gotta make both the green chips and the burner inserters with two lead-in components. There are a lot of situations where you could just drop ore and into a chest and, you know, feed your actual assemblers for quite a long time. That's not really going to be an option here. Both, or all of the components are pretty complicated for red science. That being said, they're not expensive beyond like the iron. I mean, but that's still not that bad. We haven't seen their actual smelting time. We'll see when they make their first large smelting arrays what that really looks like. The larger their array is, the slower you can expect that recipe to be. Something to point out about the Factorio setup in Archipelago, this is a maximum logistics science seed setting in the YAML file, which determines the randomization. What that means is that everything, including your rocket silo, will never require more than the second science pack. Our runners will certainly get that second science pack relatively quickly in their race because they're progressive, and so you can find up to 5 or 6 of them. Even if you don't need them, you'll still get them. And green science will only ever require roughly the progressive scaling that you would expect from like around that point of the game vanilla. So you might not have the same recipe, but you'll have something that's roughly the same difficulty. All right, one of the AP specific functions of the Z3R side, you can see what the item is on the bottle vendor before you buy it. Really important for a multi-world because, yeah, you don't want to buy your own rupees. You also don't want to, like, buy a progressive train network if you don't need it. And that's rupees that you might want to spend somewhere else in a shop sanity seed. It's been a hot minute since we've seen a shop, but we will see more as we continue to progress. As soon as they hit the Dark World, there's a lot of things that people neglect. The shop in Dark Lake Hylia, the shop east of Village of Outcasts, north of Village of Outcasts, and several on the mountain. Alright, interesting to see Kippi heading to the shop, because not for bombs, we are going to buy a multi-world item and a small key. That small key to pod. Not 100% certain what it was that Always in Trouble received from Kippi, but I sure hope it was worth it, because that was a lot of rupees. Trudging right along, seeing a little bit of divergence early on in terms of how the Factorio players choose to set up their smelting. Interestingly enough, neither of them taking any time to tear down the crashed ship. That may end up being in the way of some construction later. You certainly don't have to do it right now. But they're both seeming to avoid it, so I'm guessing they have some plans for that space. Hookshot making fast work of Mini Moldorm Cave as we see a bunch of cash on the race game. We saw Matkap pick this up earlier on the other way through Outcasts, Kakariko. Mini Moldorm's dodging deftly left and right. Matkap, emerging victorious, will grab all 5 items from here, getting a map to GT, not too valuable. Some cash, which is valuable. A compass, which won't provide any function. Something for Factorio, and a bug net. So not reaping many rewards, but a little bit more cash pushing them towards Zora. We could technically farm some rupees over by Ice Rod Cave if we were really desperate. Maybe an opportunity to see a stun prize once we get another better weapon, but Hookshot in tow will definitely help. Back of escape here, Pod Big Key, 50 rupees, 50 more rupees. That Pod Big Key is pretty big. Pun not really intelligent, but there anyway. The big thing about that big key is really just that you don't need a ton of smalls in order to finish the dungeon. So if it becomes a point where we're in go mode, you could probably do it with like 2 small keys, and we already have at least 1. We're going to get to see a Houlihan play here from Kippi. Kippi taking the time to displace the camera. The game gets very confused when you drop into that hole and says, you know what, let's just give you error handling room. Of course, if somehow you haven't heard this, Chris Houlihan, the person the room is named after, won a Nintendo Power contest once, and they put him in the game. That little placard, instead of saying a bunch of information that, these mods tend to just kind of fill there, I want to say it's like the EULA or something like that. In the original experience, it would just say, hey, this is Chris's hidden room, keep it a secret, which I always thought was neat. But the 250-something rupees that you get from that in a shop sanity seed is critical. Every little bit of cash counts, and they're very likely to exhaust most of their rupees at some point. Unfortunate hookshot clip going on here for Kippi, gonna get stuck. As we see, Always in Trouble and Eolina starting to crank out a couple of smelting arrays. This is the first iron one for Always in Trouble, possibly a bit behind Eolina in terms of iron smeltery. However, I don't know if that smelting array down there is even complete for Eolina, so maybe Always in Trouble is actually quite a bit ahead. You're looking at quite a bit of copy-paste tech here for trying to set up this array. Sometimes just seeing things and placing them directly on the ghosts is a lot faster. If you can freehand build very quickly, you have a significant advantage in Archipelago. We are also noticing that there were extra burner miners and stone furnaces placed down by alwaysintreble, committing significantly to the handcrafting and stockpiling method. Not a bad plan. There are plenty of situations where you can dump a whole bunch of stacks of iron into assemblers and get yourself a big buffer going. Paradox Cave time for Matkap with a significant edge in terms of total overworld exploration. However, no fire rod, and that could end up being a significant thing sooner rather than later. We'll find out. There is a fire source for both. The fire rod is important for Skull Woods and generally just a couple of puzzles. Heart piece, Burna, compass. Burna, nice safety actually. A Thieves Down Small, which when we get that hammer will be interesting. Yeah, no knowledge on that just yet, and of course we don't have Dark World access. But you'd much rather find that sooner than later. That is a key that you certainly do not want to go there without. All in all, though, we're fixing to have just 3 hearts walking into the end of our Sphere 1 checks. We're seeing Kippi right now take care of Ice Rod Cave. They have plenty of extra cash from the 300 they picked up along the way, or were sent potentially. I think they had it picked up, though. Our Factorio players have not really sent a whole lot of items just yet. They're still kind of getting their fledgling science up and running. Not much you can do about that. 15 minutes in is around a good time to have, your first true lab setup going. Maybe start getting some techs off the ground. Even just getting the first few progressive techs will go a long way for your partner. Spiral Cave going to provide a Turtle Rock small key. Almost a thing you wish you'd skip till late, but not a big deal. Certainly nice and efficient to get it now. We're seeing a water setup here for fake flippers out of Kippi, freehanding the actual setup, which is kind of difficult. I don't have a sword to do buffers, so props for that. That's something that can potentially be tricky. And of course, 15 minutes in, welcome back everybody. For those of you who were watching before on SpeedGaming 2, we had a match earlier today. Team Moon Spaghetti on the left, Kippi00 and alwaysintreble. We're unfortunately defeated by We're Sorry, Team We're Sorry, which was Berserker and Kono Tyron. Matkap and Eolina of Bolas Azules looking to try and repeat that effort now. Remains to be seen, though. We haven't seen much of Factorio's tech tree. We don't know a whole lot about the Zelda goal. We previously had a 5 crystal fast Ganon. And I am rooting for Team Moon Spaghetti, not so much out of malice. Matkap and Eolina did actually beat us. But mostly out of excitement for watching this format. I'd like to see everybody in this round robin get some dubs against everybody else. So, as a brief reminder of what you are watching, for those of you coming into the race a little bit late, trying to sort out what in the world you're looking at. This is a 2v2 race under the Archipelago platform, a multi-game, multi-world server solution for playing games together and cooperatively. And potentially adversity, if you want to try some of the newer features that we've been beta testing. There's a thing that I'd like to point out for those of you who like sadistic things in your randomizers. There's a new feature called Death Link, where you can share death status. You die, your partner dies. Not in this format, but, come join us on the discord.gg/archipelago. You can help us beta test this stuff. It's a lot of fun. All right, but this tournament, our goal is to cooperatively work together to launch a rocket in Factorio and beat the Zelda conditions. 500 rupees here for a small key to Ice Palace. You better say Ocarp, because you do not want to pay for that key. Kippi goes and buys it. Wow, I am shocked by that. That is a lot of rupees in a shop sanity seed to be depleting, and you can generally get by without extra keys in Ice Palace. It is entirely possible that there is a logical need for that key, but that's not something I'd be investing in right now. You know, but I would love to be proven wrong. If Kippi ends up finding something critical for either game in a hard-to-get Ice Palace chest due to the equipment, I will have to eat my metaphorical shoe. Alrighty, this looks to be... I'm not exactly sure what Kippi's doing. We see an escape sequence from Matkap. I'm guessing this is probably a lumberjack check. As we start to see more involved smelting and crafting going on between the Factorio players, diverging priorities going on right now. As we saw earlier in the race with Moon Spaghetti versus Bursari, Always in Trouble really prioritizing a significantly large smelting array. I have no idea what the actual smelt recipe times look. They look maybe a little slow. But this is a significantly larger plan than what we're seeing from Eolina. Eolina here focusing on getting a mall going. A mall in Factorio referencing like just a place where you can gather all the essentials. You're crafting inserters to feed into assemblers. You might even be crafting assemblers, but you're definitely going to craft conveyor belts. And stuff like that, prepared and ready, maybe even green chips, will allow you to, I guess, bootstrap or prepare yourself to build large-scale production very quickly. All right, we got eyes on a couple of labs for Eolina there off of one assembler. I see a green chip production, or what appears to be green chip production here for Always in Trouble. Not entirely sure how this is all laid out. It does appear that the 3-2 pattern of those assemblers in the bottom right corner will be green chips. What that feeds into, I'm assuming, is going to be red science production on the right of that. So assuming all that works as I think the design is, once this is underway, Always in Trouble will have a significantly stronger than average science layout. I'm guessing after losing to Berserker earlier, who scales up pretty quickly as a player, this may be an attempt to compensate for that. I'm intimidated just looking at it, to be honest with you. This is a very large build for 20 minutes in. And as our Zelda players continue their progression onto the mountain, over to Eastern, kind of covering each other's tracks, a quick note about Factorio. Our runners know what the rocket requirements are from the beginning. They don't necessarily know how they're going to get to those researches. So there are a couple of essentials you're always going to craft. You also got to keep in mind what your world looks like. Both of these runners appear to be on a very verdant green version of Novice, the planet that Factorio takes place on. Novice, of course, is a funny pun and a interesting planet name, but you'll also see in default settings that one world is referred to as Hyrule, one world is referred to as Novice. Novice can be all kinds of things. Novice can be a nice green landscape where all of the trees around you provide plenty of power pole, wood, and ooh, that's a big key in a... Do we even see this? That's a GT big key. I don't think we even saw this from Matkap. And Kippi is short money because of the Zora play. Oh, no. But anyway, what I was saying about Factorio Worlds is that a green start with not a lot of trees in your way is kind of like the most ideal. Both of these runners have pretty ideal starts. The water is a little farther away than you want it to be, but once you have your power going, it's not too bad. The important thing is that their pollution cloud, as they continue to produce more and more things, will expand outwards, and the hostile alien life forms, the biters, will come a-knockin' if our runners aren't careful about how they build. So we'll see how that gets handled. I am receiving confirmation from the chat that Matkap did buy those items in that shop, so that's a relief. And yes, to answer your question, chat, this is a multi-world 2v2. One Zelda, one Factorio in each team, and they are racing the same seed, trying to cooperatively complete their goals together. Quick note on strategy: as soon as you've finished your seed, your partner will receive all of the items that you had left that you hadn't sent yet. Colloquially, we refer to this as like a forfeit. You're forfeiting out your items because, like, in a traditional multi-world sense, not everybody can like stick around for the whole session, or when they're done, they still want to send their stuff out. They don't want to hold somebody else's progression. So to safeguard against that, there's a built-in mechanism for making sure that your partner receives everything. So an auto forfeit, which happens upon goal completion, is a really good strategy as a team to try and kickstart the end game for the other player, whoever is more blocked by the progression. Typically, it's going to be Factorio launching a rocket. Sometimes Zelda's going to have a fast goal condition, and Factorio can just supercharge their factory and say, all right, let's just build the rocket. Being that it's only green science required, the rocket silo is usually pretty accessible early on. Whether or not you can build all the components or have everything you need for the green science is less obvious from the outset, as you won't necessarily know what your go mode is or when your go mode is until you have that tech. You can't really necessarily find out very easily in advance. Now, there is one other mechanic built into Archipelago that allows for us to kind of mitigate some of the check everything problem with Multiworld. There's a hint system. Every 20% of the item locations available in your game world will award you enough hint points to spend on one hint that will tell you the exact location of an item of your choice. You can also hint for locations if you're in Zelda, like with an entrance randomizer circumstance. But typically people will try to find their progressive items that get them go mode. So we've seen a lot of inverted starts lately in the Zelda side. You're not going to get more than one hint out of those checks. But in an open seed, you might get 2, maybe even 3, and you can spend them on trying to find your swords, your gloves, your hammer. Oftentimes it's going to be a location in Factorio, which they can see by name, but not the item itself in their tech tree. All right, here's some money farming from Matkap. This is interesting. I think Matkap might actually be in what we call in the community BK mode pretty soon. When you're literally so bored from having nothing to do, you go to Burger King, come back, and you still have no new checks. A little bit of well-timed pumping here into the desert. Going to check that ledge. Going to give us a small key when we get there someday, sometime. As we see Kippi jumping back into the castle. We have Red Science in full production here by alwaysintreble, also known as Wags in the AP community. Looks like he will be getting going here on a full lab setup with a ring of trees potentially providing an issue. Looking like he's just going to double back on it, which is a smart strategy. You can always build labs in both directions. Didn't happen to catch that Aegina's Cave. Matkap, however, has cleared that out. And has some decisions to make. I'm not sure where you go from here in his circumstances. I'm pretty sure we've seen the back of Escape. So this might be going to the back of Escape to check the Dark Cross. I'm guessing that. Oh, no, it's a Houlihan play. So Matkap looking to play the long game, getting as many rupees as possible to try and supercharge the Dark World. So this is money farming that you do in BK mode so that you can try to get as much as possible for your partner as soon as you have access to those shops. Seeing a large-scale production of burner inserters for Eolina. This is, of course, one of the 2 components for the Red Science. We saw something of a bit of a bootstrap going for alwaysintreble, which is enough to get your first couple sciences going, but you're going to need to scale up in order to build more. Interestingly enough, despite more burner inserters, I believe, Eolina has less actual crafting of, or less actual assemblers for the Red Science itself. I'm curious to see if that's going to get expanded. All right, we see our first combat attempt here from alwaysintreble, venturing out from the base, trying to ensure that no biter attacks come ruin his day, and just inches outside of the shroud. Oh, goodness. Is very low health. Just inches outside of the visibility shroud, we are seeing the first biter nest. It would appear that Zelda has sent, or maybe they even found it in their own world, but Factorio now has rocket launcher and rockets, which is really great for taking out these early bases. Even if, it wasn't a strong weapon outright, the fact that you can shoot from a distance, you can just, mash food, which is just, fish. Certainly the fish helps make it more efficient, let's be real. But not having to worry about just shooting with a pistol. Certainly a boon to that clear. Getting to see a Zora check here from Matkap. Matkap has the cash. Should probably not spend it. Again, I could be 100% wrong here, but I really do think the smart play here is to wait until as late as possible to buy this. Big copper, big iron, lots of smelting going on. You can see that Always in Treble prefers large smelting array ghosting. So this is blocked out space that Always in Treble can rely on using for increased smelting later, but won't actually set up all of it until, all the components exist. So you gotta smelt like a ton of, not smelt, you have to mine a ton of stone, you have to assemble it into furnaces. Typically you can just, handcraft those. They're pretty quick. Wow, look at that sink. Matkap and Kippi. Both on their way with the cape in hand to Aghanim, so we're going to have almost simultaneous Dark World access. This is phenomenal. Something I noted in the previous race earlier today is a tendency of most players of Factorio in general to always ratio their copper wire to green circuits, which is one goes into the other, at a 3-to-2 ratio. That is usually the most efficient. However, with dynamic randomized recipe times, that may or may not actually be the efficient way to do it. It's just a habit for most people. It's probably the right way to do it here, but it's not unsurprising to see people do it both ways, where they'll oh yeah, this is just literally one check. I forgot. Here in Castle Tower. So it's not uncommon for people to do just straight lines of assemblers or to ratio at 2-to-3. In the vanilla game, you should probably do 2-to-3. Yeah, Berserker, one of the people responsible for putting AP together in the first place, pointing out rightly that on average it's the right way to go with green science or green chips, and you're never going to go wrong. The only reason you wouldn't want to do that is if you know that it's like an extremely fast recipe, and you need to have like a really compact build. Something to point out about Factorio, since Zelda doesn't really have much to do at this point, is that the style and approach to design for Factorio is very on the fly in this format. You are literally just designing completely new structures, completely different ways of doing things than you would ever do in a vanilla playthrough, every single time you play it. There are some things you'll see that are consistent. A lot of people have a certain way they prefer to do smelters. I, for one, really prefer something like Always in Treble's smelting array. It's not the most basic, fastest way to set it up, but it is very space efficient. And me personally, I don't want to walk across, 3 times as much space to get to the end of my smelting array. I'd rather have a compressed belt. That being said, sometimes the thing that looks pretty and feels good isn't necessarily the fastest. Time will tell. We'll find out as the seed progresses whether or not Always in Treble's method of a compact factory here will end up winning out over Eolina's kind of more sprawling but spacious designs. So optimizing for throughput, certainly a secondary thing at the moment, but that will end up becoming critical down the road as we're trying to do things like buffer the parts for our rocket and really get things kicked off for our Zelda teammates. Deadrock proven to be an absolute jerk here for Kippi, as we see a fake flipper into Hobo for Compass and out of there check for Matkap. I believe this is not an attempt to get to the Waterfall Cave. We do not have a Moon Pearl. So I'm not really sure what the plan is here for Matkap. Maybe going to test for Dungeon Shuffle just in case if Eastern Palace is vanilla. Finding a Factorio item in this shop, and Kippi going to take the time to buy the map as well for Turtle Rock, which may or may not reveal Go mode relevant information. I agree with it if it's 10 rupees. That's a smart play. Alright, things dwindling down for Zelda, but right now, here in Factorio, Red Science is booming. At this point, really our Factorio players need to scale the heck out of their labs. They need to be dropping a bajillion of them, and right now, that is exactly what Always in Treble is up to. At the 30-minute mark, you should have pretty strong lab setup started. The exception would be if you have a particularly nasty red science recipe. That being said, I mean, burner inserters in green chips is not exactly great. Not only are you going to need to scale up the green chips for other purposes in almost every format ever, but the burner inserters are not useful for other things, so you're sinking a fair amount of resources into things that you're not going to have access to or use of elsewhere. You certainly don't want to drain your red science to build your rocket components, because you're not going to be able to buffer them very easily. You kind of want to have a separate resource allocation for that. More Eastern checks. I'm not sure what Matkap is up to in here, because even if it's boss shuffle, which it could be, you can't get to the back. Oh, we're going to check a hint tile. Okay. Yeah, for lack of other things to do. I think I do like Kippi's strategy here, though. Taking the time to go right to the desert to farm the fastest possible rupees in the game. Once you've done Houlihan room, you can't actually go back in there. Well, you can go back in there, but you can't get the rupees again. Eastern Palace has some cash for us in the back of it, but it is not efficient to get back there. If you're already in the dungeon, you might want to do that, but I would personally rather do what we're seeing here, and I believe Matkap is also heading that way as well. So for the foreseeable future, until we get a progressive Dark World access or something else to do, like Castle Tower keys, for example, our two Zelda players are basically going to be in this neck of the woods for until then. Factorio side, we're seeing additional miners being thrown down for iron on Eolina's side. A rather significant setup at this point, once things are completely filled out here. I count at least 15 miners, which is quite a lot. Seeing some stone set up here from Always in Trouble, which is an interesting choice. You are committing to a significant smelt if you're putting this much down. Either that, or you have a recipe that requires it, and there are no stone setups, where you're happy about that, except for stone itself. Stone itself is super easy. I'm seeing assemblers here, though. This is absolutely going to be stone furnaces. Always in Trouble looking to ramp up the overall smeltery significantly. Stone furnaces are not exactly slow recipes in most situations, so building this many, definitely saying something. I neglected to notice that Matkap had received the book, or found the book. I'm pretty sure I even saw it and just didn't notice. Matkap going into the trap room, which is kind of funny. I believe Matkap is looking to death warp. Yeah, actually, that makes a lot of sense. Death warping specifically to leave, because there's nothing else that Matkap can do in here without a key. Could potentially steal a key. Yeah, actually has the stuff to do it. Now, this is a really scary thing to do in a multi-world. You don't know where that other key is going to be. There's no good way to guess. It could be at the top of Ganon's Tower. It could be on Spidertron. Getting a hint tile here, bottle found at uranium ammo, which is, generally speaking, a pretty late tech. You're probably not getting that bottle until the forfeit, but maybe you will if it's along the way. Right now, we see Eolina checking through the tech tree to see if that's accessible early. Looking at the Archipelago icons that have the up arrow, which indicate progressive items in the tech tree. The yellowish items here in the tech tree are immediately accessible. If you look at the actual shape of the tech tree on the right, you can see there are funnels going on here, or diamonds, I mean, which basically affects the way that the prerequisites work. That is a castle tower key on the ledge, interestingly enough. That is one more check in the castle, which stinks for Zelda, but it is something to do. But regarding these tech trees, Eolina can take the time to look through all of the progressive text. It's good to do this at one point when you're waiting on stuff, just so that you have an idea where everything is, but there's a good chance you're not getting more than half of those, depending on how things shake out. So that is a stolen key for Matkap. Matkap's going to take us all the way back into Desert right, which will get 2 items. That is definitely something. If it's a Go Mode item for Factorio, that's like Galaxy Brain move. You might expect your opponent to do the same thing in this situation, but hard to say. That's a gamble. All right, so both players have their books. Both players on Factorio side looking through the tech, trying to strategically plan out these progressive sciences. or progressive researchers, not progressive researchers, this tech tree. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. But yeah, so there's definitely some strategy involved with this. You pick them based on both progression, but also in the hopes of getting a hint, maybe. Typically in Factorio, you're not going to see a ton of hints, maybe one or two. That is a Master Sword from Eolina to Matkap, so huge damage upgrade, which is great to be able to have that. And that is a flute on the right side. We didn't need it for mountain access, but that's a huge advantage if you're trying to go fast and you don't have boots. And we saw a Factorio tech there. I did not actually see exactly what that was. Let me see if I can dig into figuring that out. Alright, so looking over at the tracker for the left team here, Kippi and Always in Trouble, we find a hint for a Moon Pearl, and that is on a tech called Advanced Material Processing 2. That is generally considered a mid-game tech. It's like the electric engine in the vanilla game. Whether or not you need green science for that is not exactly clear, just from the hint alone. They will be able to unlock it quickly is another question. So Factorio players probably going to prioritize that. The thing is like even if you give them the Moon Pearl, they don't actually have a way to get there yet. We need one more Castle Tower key to get through there. Get there through Aghanim. It looks like actually Titan's Mitts were sent to Matkap from Eolina, so as it were, this is actually de facto Dark World access. We just need that Moon Pearl, and Matkap has a pretty healthy chunk of things to do at this point. And there it is. That's the Moon Pearl. Matkap gonna make sure to get this item here now that we've spent the key. No reason not to, right? There won't be any other items here in the tower, so this is completion as far as that goes. And as long as that hammer is not right side of the Dark World, with no flippers, no anything else, it shouldn't hurt to not go all the way to Aghanim there. It might even save time. Alright, so flute activated for Kippi. We did not see Matkap actually activate the flute, I don't think. That being the one thing they really got from stealing the key in Desert, it would be almost too funny if that ended up burning both players, as it would basically require the forfeit and maybe even a restart of the file to try and get the massive biter attack here on Eolina's side. I don't know if Eolina has fish on hand, but does stave off the attack with barely a third, maybe even less of his health. That was a close call. That was at least 15 biters. More shops here, small key to Skull Woods, and a Factorio item. Didn't catch it, but it looks like... I'm not even sure what that is. Maybe logistics? I don't think it's logistics. Oh, interesting. Okay, I'm being informed from chat that Matkap actually did the hard reset to to not lose that key in Desert Palace. That's potentially a big difference maker later. We'll see what Desert is as far as a required dungeon or not, or if the boss has something critical. It looks like the tech that we had seen was concrete. Okay. Pretty big lab array going on for Eolina at this point. Always in Trouble, looking pretty similar overall. Kippi here going to head into the castle tower to start investigating a little bit more with that key. Matkap with a clear edge going into the Dark Death Mountain area. Not via flute. Once Kippi receives the Titan's Mitts from Always in Trouble, that's potential for Mire area, which Matkap will not be able to get. Simultaneous biter eradication here going on for both Factorio players. It looks like Eolina did hotkey fish finally. Both players, playing it pretty safely. Hard to see exactly what their weaponry is, but both have all 3 slots filled. So I'm going to guess that's probably rockets plus shotgun at this point. So they've had their first military tech. Venturing further outwards, Eolina going to make sure that's completely clear, not taking any chances. I'm not sure if Always in Trouble got that nest as well. From the looks of it, maybe. But if not, that'd be risky later. I think he did. So the story here might end up becoming, how much of a difference is that flute going to make for Kippi? And how long will the Titan's Mit's advantage push Matkap further than Kippi in this situation? If those Titan's Mit's show up pretty soon, I don't think there's much time lost for Kippi here. But if it takes a while for Always in Trouble to research that, I'm guessing that it was probably hinted for. I can't actually see the right team's hints, so I'm not entirely sure about that, but it sure looks like it. Getting a GT small here in Skull Woods as we start to see a little bit more progress going on for these factories, more scaling up of science, trying to help out the Zelda players, keeping them moving, keeping them progressing. We will not know about a goal hint, or not a goal hint, but the win condition for Zelda until we make our way to the pyramid. One potential advantage of, say going all the way to Aghanim, if you could, would be to immediately get the goal. Kippi, despite having that glove, still doesn't really have access to anything. So this is a great example of where the pressure's really on. How you spend your hints matters, and I get the feeling that Eolina and Matkap made some smart decisions when it comes to getting Matkap into the Dark World ASAP. Part of that might be the significantly larger tech setup for Eolina. We saw less assemblers initially, but I mean, now we've scaled back up, and despite a sprawling design here, has more functional labs sooner. Now Kippi is loading up to the quadruple digits. We're finding that Eolina just researched Quake for Matkap. We don't know what the medallion requirements are just yet. That could end up being important. Very likely to be along the path of a tech tree they're trying to dig through. Our Factorio players, when they queued it, would have known if it was required, but generally speaking, once you've queued like 5-6 techs, you're not really paying attention. A rarely seen shop here, we find one item for Factorio. Wasn't quite able to see it, but it looks like nuclear power to me. Maybe not. That would be a very inexpensive nuclear power if it was. And chat rightly pointing out that Matkap finally has broken the 3 heart limit of health that we had so far in this first 47 minutes of the race. Alright, looks like we're starting to see a true mall setup here for Always in Trouble. Looking to try to expand quickly for the actual rocket components. I don't believe that we've seen any of the setup for Green Science, and I don't think either player has received their Green Science Pack recipe at all. I want to say I just missed it, but Matkap, I think, just did a kern jump across the river. More shops being looked through right now. Concrete being bought for the left side. Getting some big keys. Turtle Rock here on the right for Matkap, and a small key to Castle Tower. So if you didn't have an Aghanim method, now you do. Big hearty hello to those of you joining us from SpeedGaming 4. Welcome. You are watching the 2v2 Archipelago, Link to the Past, Randomizer, and Factorio Multiworld Tournament. Race today between Kippi00 and Always in Trouble on the left, Team Moon Spaghetti. A fun joke about both Zelda and Factorio. And of course, on the right side are Spanish champions, of course, Matkap and Eolina of Team Bolas Azules. You are tuned into SpeedGaming 3. I am Eudaimonistic. This is the second race of the day today for Team Moon Spaghetti. They lost earlier to Team We're Sorry, which is Berserker and Kono Tyron, looking to get revenge here, as we see Zelda in general being pretty hard locked against Factorio. Now that Titan's Mitts are on both sides and Moon Pearl, and yes, Chad, that is what that means. If you're bilingual, you know. But yeah, so I mean, because of how much this seed was gated early on by the progress of Factorio, our Zelda players are really truly getting their first real Dark World exploration now. With 5 and 4 hearts respectively, they're in a lethal set of circumstances, no mail upgrades, and barely a Master Sword for Matkap. I would say overall the largest progression advantage belongs to the team on the right here, Bolas Azules, who currently have a bit of a head start into the Dark World. The one thing that's important, though, to note as far as the Zelda players' difference is that there was a stolen Desert Palace key leading to Flute. While the tracker is going to show that Matkap has acquired it, Matkap no longer has it, having hard reset to avoid the potential soft lock scenario in Desert Palace. We don't know just yet if Desert Palace is required, for this is a mystery hint or mystery goal for Zelda. And if it is required, Kippi and Always in Trouble have a gigantic advantage depending on where that key could be. It could even be a situation where you would literally have to restart your save file. Ooh, Lionel sniping Kippi here on the way over to the Gans Tower entrance. Unfortunately, it could be a Zero Crystal Gans Tower, and we may have just missed out on that. So we'll find out eventually. But in the meantime, Kippi gonna start over from scratch here on the mountain, looking like that is a full commitment to fluting away, I guess. I jumped the gun on that. So yes, to answer the questions in chat about what in the world you're watching, this is Factorio and Zelda mixed together in a multi-game, multi-world through a server program called Archipelago. Just like a chain of islands, it's a chain of all sorts of different games that can shuffle their progressive requirements and logical needs between each other, cooperatively working together to set and meet a set of goals. There are like 8 different games you can play. This is just one of the 2 formats here in SGL, the other being a 2v2 Minecraft tournament. That is the Desert Palace key, a small key. So it looks like Matkap will be bailed out, or I'm sorry, Kippi will be bailed out by that. Matkap perhaps regretting the choice to not just keep that flute. Nevertheless, both will run into Thieves Town right now, or Kippi will spite me by checking all Village of Outcasts like a sane person would to avoid missing the hammer. Hammer is something I don't think we've seen a hint for yet. Of course, in Archipelago, if you've completed every 20% of your item checks, you have enough hint points to hint for where a item location is. So if you're trying to find your progression, say a hammer or a glove, as long as you've done some progress in your game world, you should be able to find out where it is. Oftentimes being on one of the Factorio techs that is hard to get to. All right, Thieves Town progress. I haven't seen much of significance just yet, but it sure feels like something's about to give. I haven't talked about Factorio in a hot minute. So, looking at the overall differences in the designs of these factories, we noticed a significant prioritization going on for Always in Trouble towards smelting. Quite a lot of iron and copper to start. Hasn't really expanded a ton since then. We do have one additional smelting array for iron, as we're seeing a big scaling up right now from Eolina. We don't know necessarily what those rocket requirements are. The runners can actually look at what the rocket silo requires. If you're not familiar with Factorio, typically you would have 3 different components that make up a rocket part. which is effectively 1% completion on the big rocket you're trying to launch into space. In Archipelago Randomizer mod, that's 3 random things. Typically, it'd be late game resources, rocket control units, rocket fuel, and trying to remember what the third one was. It's been a long time since I played vanilla. But in this format, it scales with the maximum science pack. So if it's green science is your maximum, which it is in this circumstance, it'll be pretty easy stuff to build. Maybe like steel plates, possibly like long-handed inserters, maybe stone. All sorts of things can happen. Yeah, probably not low-density structures, thank God. Oh, yeah, that's what it is for the Rocket Vanilla. Thank you, Ak. That is exactly what I was trying to figure out. But yeah, so like things that are actually requiring big-scale builds, you don't necessarily have to do that in this. In fact, because this is a speedrunning sort of setting, a lot of players will do what they can to get their Zelda player in a good position to continue doing like dungeons, and then they're going to immediately switch to buffering all 3 of the things they need to build for their rocket. Once Factorio knows it has all the required techs, they usually stop researching things for Zelda and themselves and just go right to the rocket silo. And if you're an expert at it, you're really good, you will basically have all of the rocket components constructed and ready right when your silo research finishes, that you can just basically launch a rocket in a few minutes. Trying to line all that up perfectly is an on-the-fly thinking sort of challenge. Really fun way to re-experience Factorio if you feel like it's kind of stale for you. I don't think it's a game that really gets stale very easily, but not everybody needs to build a mega base. It's kind of fun to play it for an hour and a half and help out a Zelda friend while you're at it. Seeing some team name authentic builds going on over here from Always in Trouble. Moon Spaghetti gonna do some interesting stuff to get that expansion to Red Science. Looking like Always in Trouble knows about something on the Red Science tech tree, or just really desperately needs to clear it out. We were starting to see some parity between Always in Trouble and Eolina in terms of lab scaling. I think Always in Trouble actually pulling ahead at this point in terms of total labs. We did see a healthy total tech discovery advantage for Eolina over Always in Trouble in the first half of this race. So I'm very curious to see whether or not Eolina can give go mode to Matkap before rocket launch. I don't even know what the goal condition is yet for Zelda, and that's actually kind of surprising this late into the season. I guess it's been a good 10 to 15 minutes since we got Dark World accessed. But yes, for those of you who aren't familiar with either game, here's the too long didn't read Factorio. Build, expand, grow, craft a rocket into space. And Zelda, gather items, explore the world, find out what you need to finish based on conditions, and generally kill a pig. Not always, but most of the time. So, a little bit of extra checks going on here in the overworld. Matkap grabbing the King's Tomb. This is an accessible check now that we have boots. And that's going to lead to Hammer. That's incredible. Matkap getting a significant advantage out of that. That may very well be a hinted item, as that's one of the few remaining things that are really a mystery in terms of what Zelda players need to complete the world. We don't know yet how many crystals we need, so things like the Cane of Samaria, the flippers, the bow, of questionable need. Definitely a good chance that they hinted boots, as Bad Moons in chat is suggesting. That may have given Factorio something there as well. If you're seeing the Starman icons and you're wondering what in the world those are in Zelda, those are actually items sent to the Multiworld for games that are not Zelda: A Link to the Past. So in this format, it's going to be Factorio items, but let's just say your friend's playing Archipelago with you and it's like Risk of Rain or Slay the Spire or Subnautica. Those are going to be items for that too. You don't know necessarily by looking at it, but you do have a server window available to you as a player to see who you sent an item to and what that item was. So everybody involved in this race has one of such window open. They are openly strategizing in a voice call with each other to try to plan the best route together to complete their goals together. I kind of explained this earlier, but there are some people streaming in from the SpeedGaming 4 raid that I want to point out that every 20% of the locations that you check in your game give you enough points to hint for an item location. So how you spend those hints can literally be the difference between winning and losing. We've seen that a lot so far in the round robin style tournament we're having here. between all 5 teams, there's been a significant difference in that. And yes, answering question in chat, there is actually a Subnautica inclusion. We're finding out 5-6 Crystals, Thieves Town, Nice Palace. But yeah, even Subnautica, Slay the Spire, Time Spinner, Ocarina of Time. All these games actually exist in Archipelago as of now. We do always, of course, need more beta testers. So, you know, if you're interested in, say, for example, getting Super Metroid off the ground, beta tests happen like almost every day. We need you. So you can actually find out more about Archipelago at archipelago.gg or on the Discord server, discord.gg/archipelago. Would love to have you there. Games every day, beta testing, learn more. Really exciting. We're always looking for more people. All right, so back to the action, though. I've rambled a bit. That hammer is going to lead Matkap immediately to the pyramid, and we're going to finally get the actual answer as to what the goal condition is here for Zelda. We, of course, know that you got to launch a rocket in Factorio, and those players are going to find their stuff pretty quickly for that, or at least understand their picture. We're going to see if the pyramid is open, and we're going to check this sign for how much you need to finish the game. We might even be dropping in like soon. But nope, it's going to be 6 crystals fast Ganon with that pyramid accessible. And our Zelda players have a lot to do still in this Key Sand Beast circumstance. Pod small key, that's going to give even more possibilities into Pod. Matkap going to skip out on that. There may have been a map check. Maybe the reason that we're not going over there, but I know that they have the big key and at least a couple smalls. Deep into Skull Woods here for Kippi. We do have a Fire Rod. 4 hearts, maybe 3 if we're lucky. Is actually going for the double heal, which I really admire. Is a frame rule thing that happens with the boomerang and the hook shot, where if you grab a freestanding heart, sometimes you just get healed twice. Unfortunately, going to get robbed on that shot by the pot. Some alignment is actually possible. Shovel digging through here for Matkap. Going to get a big key for Swamp Palace. Doesn't feel great, but maybe there is something critical there. Would be yet another turn for this circumstance. I'm seeing big pollution clouds here for Always in Trouble. This is the consequence of a large smelting array, or several of them, and big science setups. Now, of course, in this green world here for Factorio, that pollution's probably not going to be a problem. They have done some exploratory biter killing, but that could still hurt them depending on how big the bases are and how little you can see of them. Radars might be handy there. We're going to see a cape fight here of Mothula. Kippi, you got to be careful. You can't take a direct hit from Mothula with green mail and 2 hearts. But trying not to waste the magic. I admire that. It's just maybe potentially a little scary. Opting for the slashes is the right way to go. Should be able to emerge victorious if he can hold on here. You got to watch out for these spikes. Oof, taking the death ray attack from Mothula. That'll be a death here for Kippi. That's unfortunate, because that's a place you don't want to come back to. And looking like Factorio just sent, or Eolina just sent Matkap the mirror. Either that or the powder led to it. There is a simultaneous item receipt and item find. That may have been a powder-locked mirror, and that is an awful place for it. No fence dash from Matkap. I'm disappointed. Quite the sprawl going on here with both factories. I feel like both of these players had a plan in mind and basically said, you know what, I'm just going to wing it after that plan started. Like, you see the organized smeltery, and then, you know, the organized, circuits, you know, the red science, and then, yeah, I got to build green at some point. So, Always in Trouble here, gonna opt to head east to lay down radar, it looks like, to try and prepare for biters in the future. Smart plan. As you start to scale up your rocket components, it starts getting kind of messy. More Factorio items being sent from Matkap. Unfortunately, didn't get a chance to catch what they were. Hard to see from here. They look like just regular buffs, but maybe just individual items. I do want to point out that when you receive a recipe or a tech in Factorio in Archipelago, you receive a full stack of that item. That's a setting that you can enable or disable. You can even set it to like half stacks or just a single craft. But in racing format, we want you to be able to build a factory pretty quick. So, you know, you're going to get a full stack of each tech when you get it. So when your teammate sends you productivity modules, you're going to throw those into your rocket because you got them for free. You probably throw them in your science labs too, all sorts of stuff. Matkap doing the boss check here in Thieves Town to make sure it's not a boss shuffle. That is a possibility. The Archipelago specific singularity setting, which puts the same boss on as many possible locations in the seed, not a factor here today. I don't think I've even seen it in this tournament. Definitely worth checking out, though, if you like Link to the Past Randomizer and like Boss Shuffle. Seeing more combat here from Always in Trouble with the provided rockets and shotgun. A nice combo 1-2 punch with fish in hand. Going to heal and tank through all of this damage. I believe we may have actually seen another nest on the right as well. Probably much larger. I see 5 nests. That's not that bad. It could be worse. Death for Kippi here in Skull Woods, checking through. I believe that might have been a death warp intentionally. All right, Eolina having paused for a moment here. I believe that's probably in the pursuit of a hint. It sounds to me, or at least from what I'm looking at, that we're not really crafting anything yet for the science, the green science, and it would appear that we are missing a recipe. Could be missing something like fluid handling, maybe circuit network. Those are pretty common in green science. It's tough, but sometimes you just got to start building everything that you need while you're waiting. Gotta say, Always in Trouble going to war here. Deep into Thieves Town, Matkap taking advantage of that powder, gonna grab the maiden, and has actually everything to check the big chest, which in a key sanity circumstance without hammer until just a minute ago, probably feels pretty good. You know what, though? I don't think those are the bolus azules he was hoping for. Does find something azul in the flippers out of Eolina's Factorio tech tree. That's going to be pretty critical. As with 6 crystals, we're going to need some water traversal. And even if we don't, it's pretty helpful to just not have to, you know, navigate around when you don't have your flute. Even more shops being checked here for Kippi. We're exhausting every single store. Both runners actually still have a pretty hefty cash pile. Matkap can probably still buy most of the remaining items with the 500 rupees, if there are any shops that he's skipped over at this point. Kippi sitting on a mountain of cash, nearly 1,400, doing well. Here's a blind fight for Matkap, a little off script, but certainly serviceable. With only 2 hearts taken of damage, will complete Thieves Town. That's a 5-6 crystal and putting him on the board for another one. Minor case of death going on here for Kippi. Going to opt to go to the mountain. The low percentage of this seed really rearing its head. All right, we're seeing power production being scaled up even more for Always in Trouble. There is a ceiling to how many of these burners you can put on one water source, so we're kind of approaching that. Always in Trouble trading a little bit of capacity power for long-term sustainability of that power output. So when you get a power spike, you have a little bit more capacity to charge through it, and that might help with the rocket. If you only plan to build one power array, that can be useful. But I would personally recommend you never put more than 10 boilers on one pump. Alrighty, we're seeing something new being built here by Eolina. That might be red inserters or just regular inserters, harder to tell. If we need long-handed inserters for the rocket, though, it's definitely good to get that started early. Looking like 2 very different directions for our Zelda players. They both grabbed the frog blacksmith friend, and they're going different routes with it because Matkap has that hammer, Kippi does not. Boom goes the non-progression here in Hammer Pegs. Matkap going to take this to turn the blacksmith in now. Whereas Kippi, who is hammerless, is going to go to Hype Cave and be stuck from there. Going to have to save and quit back. And another big key, Skull Woods. Almost insulting to get at this point after you've done all of that stuff, but, you know, I mean, better to have than not, I guess. Looks like Matkap's going to take the purple chest for now and probably do the south route into all that because of the mirror. That'll allow Matkap to also get the Bombos tablet. So if there's anything going on in these locations that helps Factorio, this is really huge for Eolina. Always in trouble, having worked on a science deficit early in the race. Probably is steaming back through now. Should be making big headway over Eolina, having spent the time for the smeltery early on. I regret to say I did not even notice the Hype Cave even after mentioning it. I'm assuming there wasn't anything critical there, no chat reactions, so I will trust that there was nothing of significance. Ah, a bow. Gracias to minding me in chat. Appreciate you pointing that out when I clearly forgot. Some more Factorio items, and a piece of heart in this shop over by Dark Lake Hylia. Matkap going to smuggle the purple chest all the way over to the thief in the desert. You know, I want to take a moment to thank the Factorio players for their sentimentality. They refused to get rid of their destroyed ship, which would give them 8 firearm magazines. They can actually take them out of there, but, you know, it's just the thought that counts. You just want to keep that crash ship there, you know, launch a better one into space. You got to admire it. Alrighty, Matkap pressing the advantage here, having that mirror early in the route with the hammer. Going to check this Bombos tablet. Accessible to Kippi, but certainly out of the way and annoying. And that is just 50 more rupees. Now, Matkap may actually end up needing that money. Kippi certainly doesn't need it. I do like this decision to go all the way into desert with this. Matkap has already been here, knows there's a flute in there, will have to get that flute. To likely check Misery Mire area, so Matkap can do all of this more efficiently than the first time around, but still at a time deficit. With those boots, it's a lot less painful. So you can kind of tell when Factorio is in a rough spot when you start to notice a little bit of idling going on. Always in Trouble is a solid player, so this is literally just being stuck. A kind of rare scenario for Factorio Zelda Multiworld, because typically the factory always has something to do in terms of progression. So right now, Always in Trouble is going to do the same thing, which is just scaling up your labs even more. Maybe adding to power like we just saw, and then at this point I would be buffering every ingredient that I can make. And I think actually he's done that. It looks like he has 2 chests in position right now. And that may actually be 2/3 of the rocket complete already, just not assembled. Remains to be seen. I'm very curious to see what this buffer setup. This is like a temporary buffer placed all in one spot. I think that might be underground belts. I can't really see what the bottom right chest is. Oh no, actually it's rail signals. So rail signals is one of our rocket components, and I believe there's another in a chest nearby. It might be rails. Yeah, I see steel coming down through there. Yeah, we might actually have rails and rail signals in the rocket. Eolina dropping off the free samples of accumulators, allowing us to store extra electricity when we're not using it. Really helpful for when you have a sudden power surge, you know, from draining out an entire buffer, for example. Never-ending stream of shop items here in this shop, Sanity Seed. Looks like something to Factorio out of that, but I didn't see exactly what. Kippi, once again, on the brink of death here, with one heart to work with, making his way all the way to Catfish. Kippi, they know exactly what they need in order to finish the game, in terms of, like, 6 crystals. They may actually not, though. I might be wrong. Kippi, I don't know how many maps they've found, but that is a significant factor. Fire Rod Lammolis side by side with that Catfish. Catfish not given the Quake, but the Quake being awarded at that time. Defaulting to Bow, actually, because of Master Sword being not the greatest weapon for Lammolis. Matkap gonna double back on that claim, though. Gonna get Sword Spin to finish it out. And Heart Piece, stealing the key, definitely a strong strategy early on. An important nuance to point out about how Multiworld stuff works, though, it supports asynchronous functions, so if you were to drop in and out of a session, you'd still get awarded your items. If you accidentally deleted your save file but still connected correctly to the Multiworld, you'd be awarded all the items that were sent to you. Not the items that you found, though. Depending on the game, some games work differently with remote items and local items. But so if you had to, for example, let's just say you stole the key in Desert Palace and it was a catastrophic logical lock, you could still restart your game and still get the stuff from Factorio without having lost that part. You just wouldn't have the game progress. All right, so we're going to get a goal check here from Kippi. This is quite a bit later than Matkap. The end result won't make a big difference in terms of when they check this, but strategy might be impacted. So Kippi knows now that the pyramid's open. Gonna need 6 crystals. They both have at least a couple. And right now, I'm not sure what the one thing is that Factorio needs, but both of these engineers are struggling for lack of it. Interestingly enough, though, looking at the Multiworld Tracker link that I have available, I do not see a hint on Team Moon Spaghetti on the left for whatever it is that Factorio is missing. So all of this scaling up for things that are needed, presumably for the rocket, but no answers yet. I'd like to take a moment to thank everybody for tuning in. This is the... Well, that's a big key to Ice Palace. This is the Link to the Past, Randomizer, and Factorio 2v2 Multiworld multi-game tournament through Archipelago here during SGLIVE 2021. You're tuned into SpeedGaming 3. Also, a big shout out to all of you who joined us from the SpeedGaming 4 broadcast. Welcome. We are about an hour and 15 minutes into this race. The lowest combined time between the two teams will be the victor today, so while one team may end up finding their go mode for one of their games really fast, it's entirely possible the other team could eclipse them by finishing collectively faster. This will be an exciting race all the way to the end until we figure out what in the world's going on. Key Sanity 6 Crystal Fast Ganon for Zelda. Only Logistic Science Pack requirement in all Factorio seeds. Looks like we got train signals, potentially some other stuff. I'm not sure exactly what the other components are just yet. Possibly rails themselves, because I believe I saw steel being routed down. Wow, I'm looking at this chest full of boilers that alwaysintreble has made. I'm wondering if boilers are part of this rocket. If so, that's a really nasty thing to have to craft. It's just a ton of resources. Addressing the question in chat about the Starman symbols you're seeing in Zelda, Archipelago is compatible with like 8 or so different games, so anytime you have an item that isn't a Zelda item, you still need to display something. So the Starman is just like a placeholder for any item that goes into the multi-world that doesn't belong to a Zelda Link to the Past game. In this format, that'll always be Factorio items, but if you're playing with other games as well, it could be any of those too. If you want to learn more about Archipelago and how you can get involved and play, or maybe even help develop, randomizer support if there's existing randomizers and you find this interesting, you can find more information at archipelago.gg. Or if you want to join the Discord, it is discord.gg/archipelago. We are always looking for more people to play. Daily games happening and beta tests happening regularly. And some new games on the horizon, maybe even a Super Metroid inclusion. There's recently actually a little bit of beta testing going on for Ocarina of Time entrance randomizer. So all kinds of fun stuff happening. And we could use your support too, so come join us. Welcome to those of you joining from the Scottish Brave broadcast. You are tuned in to 2v2, Link to the Past, Randomizer, and Factorio Multiworld SGL 2021. That's a mouthful. This is a fun experience, this race, for at least the Zelda players, I think. Factorio seems to be pulling their hair out right now. Big, huge scaling for boilers, it looks like, on the rocket. We've seen rail signals. Not sure what they need for green science, as we have not seen it yet, an hour and 20 in, and that is very alarming. This could actually be the first seed I've seen in this tournament where Zelda is trying to... The Zelda players in Hyrule are trying to get their win condition first to send stuff to Factorio. That may actually be the case, because I feel like at this point, at least half of the rocket components are buffered for both players. Maybe at least one of them for Eolina, probably two for alwaysintreble, who is currently working on the boilers. As for the current setup, I see engines. Oh my goodness. Do we need engines for green science or the rocket? Because if we need that and boilers, that is just terabad. And yes, the Zelda win condition here is going to be 6 crystal fast Ganon. I believe we have 2 or 3 crystals each. I can find out in just a moment, actually. So from the looks of things, we have 1, 2, 3... We got 3 crystals, I believe, for Bolas Azules, maybe 4 off of Skullwoods. 3 off of Skullwoods here. And I want to say that Kippi also has 3. I'm going to check that again real quick. It would appear that Kippi probably has 2. We did see that Kippi also hinted for that hammer in King's Tomb. So Kippi hasn't received it yet, but is aware of it. And because you don't need it to do Desert Palace here, will not bother. Getting a pedestal check here for Matkap. There is a map on the pedestal. We're never going to get that. So we do have a full key sanity shuffle here, maps and compasses included. You can find them in Factorio, of course, as well, so, Factorio is not appreciating that. You send out a map and you're just like, okay, I spent, X amount. Oh, that's a big biter attack on Eolina's main coal line? No, that's a main iron line. Having to deplete a lot of rockets and losing, oh my goodness, at least 10 miners off of that. Or at least the productivity of them. Maybe that's only like 3 or 4 gone, but it just looks like a mess. Like there's just an absolutely deadly battle taking place on that iron patch. Every little bit of delay in this is, science gets delayed as well. By the looks of things, I believe Eolina is running out of red science to research. Probably going to prioritize the progressive science. If you look in the tech tree, you're going to see that there's a arrow symbol on the actual icons for the techs that are progressive. You don't necessarily know what those techs are. There is a location name associated with them for the sake of hinting. There are also settings you can play where you can see the entire tech tree and deliberately pick specific items. For a blind race, that's not really the spirit of it, but it is fun to play that way sometimes. So from what we can gather, it seems like engines are probably part of the green science, just kind of going off of what we're seeing from Berserker in chat. I believe that's probably the case. I don't see where they're trying to build their green science, which is alarming. We're we're starting to turn these factories into a bit spaghetti. Yeah, and also to highlight, I guess, and to clarify off of what's being talked about in chat, progression for those arrows on the tech tree. Progressive would imply that these are tiered items. So, for example, with the train upgrades, you could get all sorts of individual techs in the vanilla Factorio game for train upgrades for like braking speed or whatever, you know, rail signals, train stops, or whatever. All of them are effectively the same way that swords are progressive in Zelda. So being that there's 10 rail upgrades, it doesn't really matter which ones you get as long as you get the one or two that you need in this format. But you could get braking speed 6 if you really full clear everything. But yeah, so the tactical choice for Factorio to research a lot of progressive things that might be very expensive and time costly, you have to weigh that against potentially, getting through a bunch of junk items to unlock a hint. We're going to see a Harapot attempt here from Matkap. Going to go for a pause buffer. The mini Moldorm has me a little nervous, but it looks like Matkap's a pro, knows what he's doing here, and will accomplish it in like 2 tries. It's pretty good. We got a Misery Mire play here from Kippi. Kippi taking advantage of Sword Beams here in Mire 2. Still only at like 6 hearts. It's a very dangerous dungeon. Looking here, we're going to full clear Hera. That's going to be a Canis Samaria in the big chest. Big find for Matkap. Matkap has been a little bit ahead in total progression throughout most of the seed. We'll move on to kill Moldorm here. I'm not sure if this is a crystal or not. I would guess that it probably is. Yeah, so to address a question in chat about how these players know what these items are, in Zelda, you're not going to see any kind of like server messages in the game, but there is a client, like a little text window, that all games that are in Archipelago, except for a couple that support like in-game text, most of the games in Archipelago will have this text client where you're going to see the sends and the receives for all players connected to the session. So it'll say sent to novice here in the corner for Matkap, for example, but there's a little window where he sees exactly what it was that was sent. There are a couple of things that you can see. Hint tiles will tell you what the technology is, for example, or what the item is that you're sending. Additionally, if you purchase an item in Archipelago from, say, the Bottle Merchant or Zora, you have the choice to choose whether or not you want it based on what the actual contents are. With a funny little joke, actually. Waiting in the Tower of Hera leads to progressive productivity module. Yeah, you're not doing that if you're Kippi. Although it's a nice item. You don't need it progressively. Ganon's Tower access here for Matkap. Gonna head into, presumably try to either find something hinted or just try to help Factorio out here. Couldn't be any better timing, too, with that Canis Samaria. That's right side access here. And getting some spooky things going on with Fire Rod splash damage. Stalfos beware. Making our way to the right side. So we were kind of talking about this, or touching on this a little bit ago, to respond to the question in chat about whether or not Factorio sees the Zelda items on the tech tree. There is actually a setting you can choose to show the exact contents of the technology, but generally speaking, you're going to see just a phrase saying an Archipelago sendable, which will not tell you who it goes to under these settings, but it does tell you, that it doesn't belong to your game. Oh, I'm getting myself twisted here. No, it doesn't tell you who it even goes to at all under race settings. So you might be finding your own progressive technology. You don't know until you've researched it. Link to the past goal today is going to be 6 Crystal Fast Ganon. We appear to be about halfway there for both Zelda players. Matkap has a much clearer picture of how to get there right now. I don't know if they know enough about crystals from maps to identify exactly the go mode just yet. From the looks of things, I think Matkap is just trying to help Factorio get something. They must be missing one rocket component. Either that or they need engines for their rocket, and they're just desperately trying to... No, actually, Eolina just getting the green science up and running, and Always in Trouble actually already has green science running. That's what I get for paying attention to Zelda for a long time. So this is interesting. That's enough to get the rocket silo, and it looks like actually Always in Trouble is finishing up the rocket silo right now, having buffered a fair amount of science, it looks like. Having placed it, actually, Always in Trouble might be in the final sequence here, actually building rocket parts. With productivity modules, you can cut down on how much you need to put into the rocket in terms of total crafts. Normally, you would need 10 of each item for the 3 items for 1% of the rocket, so 1,000 of each item typically. In this situation, if you have productivity modules, you can cut down on the total percentage of what you need. So maybe you don't need a whole 1,000. If you've buffered 1,000 of each component, though, you can literally just queue up the rocket silo tech, drop that thing down, watch it all pour in, and launch your rocket. So Always in Trouble is actually a minute or two, maybe even less if he's got all the stuff he needs from finishing the game. Possibly in a first place finish at this rate. It's interesting, though, to see that despite more tech or more science packs coming down, no new techs have been selected, so maybe a small oversight to not cut off all other production. Maybe he already has everything he needs. Kind of explaining what's going to happen here in just a moment. We've touched on it a couple times here in the race so far, but once one of the players finishes, all remaining item locations that haven't been checked will be sent out as a means of preventing and safeguarding against being soft-locked by finishing but not sending stuff. So it's considered in a multi-world to be what's called a forfeit, not in terms of racing where you give up the race, but more to send out all of the items after the goal completion. This happens automatically, so as soon as that launch happens for the rocket on Always in Trouble side, Kippi will receive a never-ending, almost it seems, flood of items, and then Kippi will pretty much just be going straight for goal completion. Ice Armos here deep in Gan's Tower. Matkap has had an item advantage, and all from pretty much items within Hyrule. This has potential to be a very interesting finish based on that, as Kippi has hinted for a hammer. Hasn't needed it yet, so knows where to get it. It's in King's Tomb. And should get the Cane of Samaria here, assuming he does everything in Hera. Okay, good. But despite this, Matkap has had the boots, probably hinted for those, and quite a item advantage for a while. So that is it for GT for Matkap. Getting out of there. On to Meyer. I believe Kippi might actually have a dungeon advantage over Matkap at this point once Tower of Hera is done. Rapid progress on the rocket here for Always in Trouble. It would appear that there was some kind of bottleneck, or maybe certain parts weren't completed just yet. So by the looks of things, might not be ready to launch just yet. But he is making good progress. It appears that we're close to 50% now. I also see that the rocket silo tech is underway for Eolina. Maybe the only green science thing that either player even researched, which is fascinating. More sword beam shenanigans here in Mire 2 for Matkap, same as Kippi. In fact, I feel like they were in opposite dungeons at the same time. Just mirrored, which is kind of interesting. Rocket percentage climbing rapidly, approaching on bordering on 70% here for Always in Trouble. course, it is the lowest combined team total time, so if you're the first one to finish and by any kind of reasonably large margin, you're doing a lot for your teammate. Biter attack ongoing here for Eolina should only affect the boiler production off of these stones, so maybe not the biggest deal. But that is a biter base that he's going to want to deal with. A little bit of indecisiveness going on here on Death Mountain. Kippi perhaps not sure if he wanted to bother with Turtle Rock, but without the hammer can't do that. So it looks like Kippi here is probably heading to the North Dark World to get Graveyard Ledge plus King's Tomb, I would guess. Always in trouble. Almost always in some kind of trouble with this seed powering through. Here on the last leg of the rocket launch, I wonder if he has a vehicle. Probably has a vehicle. You can actually put a vehicle in the rocket and ride the rocket into space. Alright, a lot of cape-fueled slashes here from the Master Sword fight in Vitreous. Matkap taking no chances, having plenty of arrows to work with. Matkap with no cap, as we see Kippi taking that large, big chest here from Skull Woods. We are prepped and ready to go for that rocket, always in trouble, just waiting on the rocket silo to finish its animation before he can launch it. We had speed modules in there, so no productivity to work with, but that is still faster craft time. And that is a rocket launch. Here in just a moment, you'll see the item stream through the console. And get your GGs in chat, as always in trouble, finishing in first place for the seed with a official racetime.gg time of 1 hour, 35 minutes, and 32 seconds. Now the pressure is truly on for Eolina, as once you have had your opponent finish their rocket before you, every second counts. It's every bit of advantage that you're losing against, or forcing your Zelda player to be better over. I'm going to get a crafty mirror here for Matkap, I believe, to turn in a green pendant, or at least check to see where it is. Sadly, just some cash money. Both of our players, despite shop sanity, well into the 4 digits. So cash, not a concern here. Matkap only barely getting underneath that here with the entrance to Palace of Darkness. Regarding the finish times for Factorio and Zelda, it has been the convention, or at least the common situation, because of how the logic works, for most Factorio seeds to finish before Zelda in this tournament so far. Part of that is because getting red and green science isn't that hard. Red science, you by default have to have access to craft immediately at the beginning of the game, and green science is only 2 recipes. The rocket needing only 3 recipes total, and generally at the low requirements, you're going to have at least 1 or 2 of those naturally anyway. It's pretty rare where you're hard BK'd in a Factorio seed, although it does happen. We saw that for at least 15 to 20 minutes here in this seed, where Factorio gated Zelda and then Zelda gated Factorio. I'm very interested to hear from these 2 runners, as we see always in trouble, having a little bit of trouble with the nuking of his factory. Looks like the completion gave himself some atomic bombs because of that. That was somewhere in his tech tree. In the meantime, Kippi over here, they are still receiving items. It takes a while to get your items from the forfeit. And the less you do in Factorio to, like, you know, complete out your tech tree to try and finish as quickly as you can, the longer it takes for Zelda players to catch up. So Kippi has received all the items, going to go to the back of Skullwoods now to get revenge on Mothiel. Look at those 18 hearts that Kippi has right now. Chat pointing out, because they're definitely paying more attention than I am, that there's a sword, flippers, bombos, ether, shroom, apparently every bottle. Except for one that I think we had hinted. Or maybe not. No, it was uranium ammo, I remember now. And the ice rod, all coming through for Kippi now. So Kippi has a clear path to the finish. The only thing that he's potentially not going to send to Kippi here through the forfeit is going to be the hammer and the boots. So Kippi going through, they are going to have to... What was it again? They're going to have to get King's Tomb, and I have no idea where those boots were. That being said, we know, based on the hint log, that Kippi did in fact hint for the hammer. So they do know that they got to go to King's Tomb. There's no doubt there. Boots are at the bottom of hammerless ice, according to Bad Moons. That's... wow. That's a Mothula down as we see Matkap taking on a not exactly similar fight. There are some spikes in here. Helmasaur King guarding those spikes like the best linebacker in the NFL. Matkap just going to take 8 slashes to finish phase 2. Getting a GG in Always in Treble's world. Fun way to occupy your time while you're waiting. That's phenomenal. Okay, so Helmasaur King going to give us the big key to Eastern Palace. I guess I know what Matkap's probably going to do next, unless it's a pendant. This is kind of a big deal for Matkap. The ability to chain these two dungeons together with boots and really everything you need. It might just be a scenario here where Matkap is going to finish before Eolina. I don't know where Eolina's rocket progress is going to be at. I can see that the rocket silo tech is pretty well researched, like about 60%, maybe 70%, but I don't see really much green science, and it looks like the green science setup is pretty paltry for Eolina right now. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Maybe some bottlenecks in resource production into it. Looks like there's a handful of things that aren't moving quickly. It might even be like a power drain issue. So a couple of things to sort out. Maybe can be fixed with the forfeit from Zelda. It'd be very interesting to see this come down to a Zelda versus Factorio race instead of a head-to-head in each game. That was a really interesting choice to go for Bumper Cave here from Kippi without boots. Finding the map for Palace of Darkness is going to at least get the information about which crystals are accessible. Maybe even a map check here. Not quite. So if I'm to believe chat, and I'm likely to believe chat, I think this may actually be the last crystal for Matkap. And if that's the case, very likely, assuming that Matkap can handle a... oh geez, that's a Master Sword Sylvanas Ganon, isn't it? Oh no. Well, assuming that's alright for him, potentially going to finish before this rocket gets crafted in Factorio for Eolina. Eolina, he does have green science going, and he's like 90% of the way of researching the silo, but whether or not all the components are buffered, whether or not, he's ready to, just feed that silo with 1,000 of each, that's hard to say. It's hard to really tell too well, just looking at the feed. But he certainly has a bit of a factory going. If he cuts off his research, he might be able to pull it off. Interesting. Eastern Palace was a pendant. I'm wondering if that is potentially a mismarked tracker for Matkap. And that's actually potentially a really big deal because Matkap took a fair amount of time to go back through here. Looking like a return to Ice Palace for Matkap as we see Kippi in Ice Palace, having the benefit of having King of Samaria the first time through. we'll be able to Icebreaker and just clear out in one try. Has plenty of health to work with, too. All right, so getting some clarification from Chad. Matkap did not have knowledge or the map of Eastern Palace, so did not necessarily know if that was a crystal. Okay, that would make a lot of sense, because that would explain why you'd try to go for a fast boss. Didn't even lose that many arrows in the process. Matkap doing all right on resources. Kippi, who has received all the things from the Factorio forfeit, has 65 arrows in the quiver. Will not run into that problem. All right, I believe that we found boots here at the bottom of ice. I don't know, actually. I'm going to check to see if they hinted for that. Yes, Kippi, in fact, did hint for this. It's the Freezor chest. That's the boots. And Kippi's leaving. I'm not certain I agree with that. Alright, rocket silo has been placed for Eolina. The rocket is in progress. I'm seeing a lot of stuff on these belts and some chests for pretty much every item. I'm pretty sure Eolina is going to send that rocket real fast. And those components, since I wasn't sure earlier, rail signals, boilers, and long-handed inserters. A very gnarly rocket for this particular science pack requirement. Oh, that's right. Kippi didn't get this hammer earlier. Oh, that makes way more sense. Okay, so Kippi did not do Ice Palace for that reason. And you had to have the boots to get them. Oh, okay, this makes way more sense. This was a not fun Zelda progression towards the end. Yeah, so Kippi is going to head right back in, whereas Matkap, who had done this much earlier, had the boots advantage for like a solid hour, I think. Maybe not quite, but a lot of time. So we're seeing progress here from the rocket on the Eolina side, maybe a good 25%. In terms of actual time separation between the Wags, or not Wags, I'm sorry, Always in Trouble finish and Eolina's finish. Always in Trouble finished at 135.32. We're at 146.50-ish right now. So that is about a 12 to 15 minute difference depending on how the rest of this crafting goes for the rocket. Probably about 13 minutes. And that needs to be how big of a separation there is between Matkap and Kippi for Team Bolas Azules on the right side to take the victory today. If Kippi can finish within 13 or so minutes of Matkap and have a lower team overall time, Team Moon Spaghetti on the left will take the victory today. Cold stare down for Matkap. Another crystal. I believe this is going to take us to Ganon. That's a Factorio item of some sort. Probably not too important. Definitely not a progressive productivity module, as Eolina also putting speed modules into the rocket. Okay, Matkap has gathered a number of crystals, I believe 6. If not 6, definitely 5. We even had a map and I didn't even see it. From here, where does Matkap go? Yeah, that is something to point out, as Chad mentioned here. Matkap has red mail. Found both of those mail upgrades for himself, because Kippi did not receive them in the Factorio forfeit. So from the looks of things, I believe Matkap is either going to go to the pyramid for the big bomb, or more likely, I think, is going to Ganon right now. I have not kept good count of the crystals. So yeah, this is actually going to be a big bomb. I'm wondering if he's looking for a sword. Cold stare fight here for Kippi. Plenty of magic to work with that half magic and tempered sword. Actually kind of in a dangerous position right now. Has to watch himself. Has a potion? Has a fairy and a potion. Alright, Kippi's going to survive this one. That looked really dicey for a second. Rocket Silo very close to completion here for Eolina as Big Bomb going to the Pyramid. We're not going to get simultaneous completion if this is a Ganon play after this, but it'll be pretty close. I mean, definitely within a few minutes. So let's find out here in just a moment whether or not Matkap just leaves here or double bomb upgrades. That's amazing. Or whether or not, I mean, he's leaving, so that must mean going up to the Ganon fight. Yep. This is really exciting. Team Bolas Azules may finish within a minute or so of each other, depending on how good Matkap is at the Master Sword Silverless. All right, it's going to be 12 sword spins per phase 1 and 2. So this is going to be a bit of a slow-going fight to start. Matkap does get the good position in the upper right corner. Unfortunately, can't carry that into phase 2, which would have been even better. That being said, he is playing it safe. Only has 2, 4, 6, 8, like 8 or 9 hearts to work with. Makes it into phase 2. Oh yeah, chat pointing out, Alisoon, that we do not have bottles on Matkap's side, so Matkap here is going for Baroque, does not care at all about how dangerous this is, and down to 3.5 hearts, has a hook shot, refuses to use it. I admire him. Oh, now this is interesting. Eolina is done with the rocket and is now launching it, which means that Matkap is going to get the forfeit items during the Ganon fight. That will include a sword, at least one, and a lot of bottles. So Matkap may actually have been planning around this, which would be very, very interesting strategically. And get your GGs in for Eolina, who finishes in second place in this race with a race time GG time of 1 hour, 50 minutes, and 22 seconds. GG. Alright, so now Matkap, despite having a fairy in a bottle, has to just dodge fire bats at 2 frames per second. Yes, these players are all in voice calls with each other, with their teams, so everybody's going to be in a voice chat with their partner. Alright, well, several dozen items later at a heart and a half, 2.5 hearts. Wait, but there's more, 3.5. And a shield. This may take a while. I'm pretty impressive, actually, that Matkap's still continuing the fight this way. This is a tempered sword now. But so this is a 15-minute difference minus 10 seconds between the two factories, and Matkap would have to have a catastrophic failure here in Ganon, with Kippi finishing before him for this to swing. So right now it is Team Bolas Azules' race to lose, and it would take quite a lot. Matkap in a great position to close this out. Well, I mean, I say that, but like, at some point he's going to get to fight Ganon properly. I have to admit, it would be phenomenal if if Matkap were able to do all of Phase 4 through this, but unfortunately he'll run out of items. Addressing the question in chat, it is the lowest combined time between the two teams. So, Eolina finishing 15 minutes later than alwaysintreble means that Matkap has an extra 15-minute buffer. Or, I'm sorry, Kippi has an extra 15-minute buffer over Matkap. I've been saying this wrong, haven't I? So yeah, when Matkap finishes, Kippi's on a 15 or 14-minute and 50-second timer. Oh wow, so I had this entirely wrong. This is actually still very exciting. Phase 4 Master Sword Silverless, Matkap needs to be doing this, like, really fast. I can't believe I had that completely backwards. Thanks, chat, for keeping me sane, because, wow. All right, Matkap getting more sword spins. Needs 12 total in phase 4 here. Well on his way using Fire Rod to try and get triples. Just really trying to make sure we finish the fight. Now that there's no items in the way, this is actually almost a little anticlimactic. All right, Matkap getting the last couple of spins here. And that is Ganon killed. In this combo randomizer multi-world, a lot of people like to call this pig launched, as you've launched a rocket and killed the pig. Congratulations, Team Bolas Azules, for finishing their combined race with Matkap's racetime.gg time of 1 hour, 53 minutes, and 49 seconds. So 153.49 and 130 or 150.22 as the combination of those two times is going to make up Team Bolas Azules. But Kippi here, walking into Ganon now, has a very large time buffer thanks to Always in Treble. We'll need to finish within the next basically like 11 minutes. I gotta say, this is very exciting to watch and to be a part of. For those of you who may have tuned in a little bit later into the broadcast or are coming from raids, if you want to get involved in Archipelago and just play the game, or not play the game, but play the multi-world and kind of learn more about it, the website archipelago.gg is a good place and a good resource. We also have a Discord server at discord.gg/archipelago, where you can learn more about all 8 of the games that are currently supported. Just as a brief list, Risk of Rain 2, Subnautica, Time Spinner, Ocarina of Time, A Link to the Past, Factorio. I believe there's one more that I'm not immediately remembering. Minecraft. You can play multi-world with all of these games together, or any combination. Sometimes you want to do more than one of the same thing. There's also soon to be coming out of beta Super Metroid support. We need beta testers, so if you're interested in playing this and want to help contribute to the project, whether you have coding experience or not, your time and experience is valuable, so come join us. It's a lot of fun. Pretty much daily games are played. All right, I've spent enough time rambling about that. Kippi here in the Ganon fight, moving into phase 4, working on sword spins, taking advantage of Torch Glitch and Fire Rod to get attempts at triples. Gonna pull off at least one here. Get another sword spin here in phase 4. Tempered Sword making this a lot more accessible. No silvers, of course, but this could be worse. When you have 18 hearts to work with, it's not so bad. Last couple spins. Just one more, I believe. And that will do it. Kippi has emerged victorious from the Ganon fight. I was looking at the timer kind of weird because of that's Always in Treble's timer, but Kippi will finish with an official racetime.gg timer of 1 hour, 56 minutes, and 41 seconds. And because of the difference in the total team times, I can unequivocally say that Team Moon Spaghetti has emerged victorious today, thanks to the wide berth given by Always in Treble in the Factorio finish, as well as Kippi's solid finish of the Zelda Seed. GG's in chat. Hopefully we can get him in for an interview. I gotta press a couple buttons apparently. Making this a lot more. I see. So there was done buttons I was supposed to be pressing, but that's okay. We will get them in here for an interview if they're willing to or have the time to. I don't think we might actually be a little behind on this SG schedule, so I'll see about that.
What a seed.
Yep,
GG.
you can say that again. Oh.
All right, so we are joined by Kippi and Always in Treble, as I've been calling you, or Wags, as a lot of the AP community knows you. Congratulations.
We did it.
We have done it. Yeah, jeez. That was a interesting seed, to say the least about it.
Every single progressive science pack was in Factorio. 100% of them.
Wow.
Afterwards, I was like, oh, I'm going to hit for these. You know, I'm wondering if maybe they found one of the other ones. Every single one was in Factorio. I was like, oh, cool. And like at that point, I literally had all of my rocket buffered.
Yeah, that's the impression I was getting. It seemed like there was just like one thing that was holding you guys back.
Yeah.
In green science, walk me through that because it's kind of hard to see on the Factorio overlay.
Yeah, it was pretty much just walking. It was pretty much just looking through the tech tree trying to find a science pack. That's what that game was.
Big yikes. Well, hey, we're also joined by Team Bolas Azules, Matkap, and Eolina. GG, and congratulations on your getting through that seed.
GG. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. I played for about 2, 4, 6, 22, but I expanded to 28 or something like that. But
Yeah,
I
I
think
started
that
with
was
about.
enough.
I had about 12 for a long time, and I was like, oh, this is probably okay. And then, like, after I hit like 40 labs, they couldn't keep up, and I was like, oh no.
That's what I did slowly. I think in fact, the green potions were on our world, so I think I should have made a lot more of red potions machines.
Yeah.
Also,
I will say that both teams had a lot of science.
Yeah, I obsessed with the other day game where I finished my rocket silo, but I didn't have the materials for the rocket, so I focused on that, and I didn't focus on getting the silo results. So I think that's what I should have improved.
Yeah.
On that note,
I had
what was
everything
the value?
buffered by the time I finally found green science, but I didn't put a whole lot into it. I had like 2 of each assembler, I think, for those.
I got 4 of each, but that was even overkill because by the time I had all the mats, I didn't even have the green potion research. So
Yeah.
It seemed like most of the stuff was pretty gnarly recipes. What exactly was the green science at the end? Since we only saw
engine unit and pipe. Or no, stick.
Yeah.
Engine unit and stick. It was.
Pretty much every recipe was garbage.
Yeah.
but when I saw the engine, there was like a ton of time because it requires steel that I have none, and a lot of iron things. But whatever, the steel is with the thing that gives you.
Yeah. I didn't even have steel set up until I saw that it was engine unit, and I was like, oh god.
They were the same.
I had to set that up really quick.
I found the green potions at, I mean, half an hour before ending, I think. So that was the killing thing. But yeah, it was fun, and in the end, I learned some things too. So I think I can learn something from this.
Yeah, it was a good seed.
I think through this tournament, all of us are getting a little better at wrangling our spaghetti.
This is the ugliest looking factory I've made this entire tournament. Because I was restricted I was building towards the water, and then I was restricted by the water, and I was like, I'll just go around this way, and it'll be fine, I'm sure.
Look, you don't rinse your noodles.
God, I sure don't.
Come on.
This is a very ugly factory.
Linguini
I
101.
literally built 2 separate areas just to make circuits, and then tried to put them all into one belt, and it's very ugly.
Hey, we're all trying to work towards steamed mastacholi. You know, we're just working on it. We'll eventually get there. A nice, healthy lasagna.
Gotta start
Right.
somewhere.
At first, I tried to make the things scalable, but when I am in a rush and I need this now, it's like whatever. I'll fix this later or never.
And then you don't get back to it. You just
I
leave
hope
it.
the seed ends before I need to fix this.
A lot of iron in that seed, though. I had almost 40 miners.
I've noticed that you put a lot of ghosts down really early on, and it gives the impression of like having a just ridiculously, stupidly large smelting array, even though in reality you don't really build it that big most of the time.
Yeah, I sure don't. I just build a ghosts out so that I can like have something ready, and I don't build my stuff too close to it, which I ended up doing anyways. But
It's a thing I want to implement in my own builds. It's smart. And hey, folks, if you haven't played Factorio, if you're a Zelda fan watching all this stuff, that's the best part about Factorio. You're always learning something from other people and teaching people yourself. So you'll learn a lot playing the game. It's very fun. So thoughts going forward. I want to say both teams here still have races to run, right? Or is this the last one for Team Moon Spaghetti?
this is the last one for
This
Moon
would be the
Spaghetti.
last one from Moon Spaghetti, yeah.
Well, it's been a hard-fought week all around. A rush to get all these through. I believe, though, that Matkap and Eolina for Team Bolas Azules still have another match or two to put on the schedule.
Yeah, we are playing, it seems, on Sunday against Berserker and Chrono Tyrant, so that should...
Well, hey, you heard it here first, folks. Team Bolas Azules versus Team We're Sorry, which is kind of funny in my opinion because they're both devs. So what are they apologizing for? All of our suffering. I'm hoping to see a really exciting finale, I guess, for our tournament. I know we saw a SpeedGaming Espanol broadcast of one of the matches earlier this week, and it's great to see more coverage for this because this is a novel concept, and we have the great privilege of being able to, broadcast it for the SpeedGaming audience. So, any predictions for Sunday? Matkap and Eolina, you think you guys are running away with this one?
Let's see what happens. Like, the first seed we had, like, it was like a 1 or 2 crystals fast cannon, which kind of took us by surprise, but it hasn't happened again, so yeah. Like, from the outside, you can think it's just like regular A Link to the Past randomizer, but in the end, I think like the hint system and everything really makes it more different than it seems.
A lot of our seeds have really come down to the Link to the Past hint. Like what they hinted for, and like if we prioritize that or go for another risky play or whatever.
Yeah, because what did you hint? Because I really didn't know what to hint, like for the first.
All right. So what I ended up doing, I ended up hinting. I was getting in BK very early on in the light world. I ended up hinting for Moon Pearl because I knew that it. Even though I needed multiple things to get out of to get to the Dark World, I'm gonna go for the guaranteed hint right there, just in case if my Dark World access was through like it was through like a hammer or the other glove. Well, it turns out it didn't have to be the hammer though, because eventually when I was starting to get my crystals and when I started to finish this rocket, I hinted for where my hammer is to do ice and pod. And oh my god, that has to be the grossest logic I've seen in a while.
Yeah, the
I
Pegasus boots.
Yeah, I did hammer first because I really didn't know what to do because, okay, Pearl, but the moment you realize you need 2 keys for Aga, I mean, hammer opened like stuff in Hera, there was also the book, and in the end, I think the hammer hand played out. It's a shame because I didn't check the green pendant when I went to Saha, and that was really unfortunate, and not in general not having maps, ended up doing like 2 pendant dungeons that were not required, as well as all of GT. I don't think I could have saved like 13 minutes.
Hey, so there are actually 2 things I want to ask you guys about because they were really exciting parts of the race. The decision to smuggle a key for the flute. That was awesome. We saw both of you guys do that, and then a reset for Matkap. But I have to ask, how did it feel when you got the small key for Desert Palace at a brewery immediately after?
Yeah, it was really bad. I mean, because I didn't know if to keep it or not, but considering I hadn't checked the goal yet, like, it can suddenly be a fast a fast 2 crystals or something like that, and suddenly you're missing that key and you can't finish, and it can screw up the whole game for sure. At least I could do it like with purple chest and then finish Desert Palace and everything, so I think it was okay. But yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, I understand that mindset. My mindset was like, I kept the flute because I felt like that flute, like even though that flute didn't unlock anything at the time, it was gonna have a little bit of time saves, just getting to where I need to go. And if I'm going, if it was required for something, I'd rather just get it and then just find the desert key anyway. If I'm gonna need that anyway.
All right, and then the one thing I wanted to just kind of get a feeler for, who else is really happy we didn't have inverted today?
I was.
In
I
this
didn't want to play inverted twice in one day.
I wouldn't mind that much. I mean, probably not better.
Good.
No, go ahead, please.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, I usually don't mind inverted, just not twice in one day. I want some variety.
And
Yeah,
we've
for
been missing
sure.
a lot of it.
Yeah, inverted, especially without keys, can be really tough.
Well, that also reminds me of the other thing I wanted to ask you guys about. We found both Castle Tower keys, and I want to say they were accessible, if I'm correct, potentially as a means to get to the Dark World. Is that right? Do you guys remember where that second one was?
I think it was in the Dark World.
I believe,
Think.
I got that key. It was in the Dark World shop, the Dark Witch shop.
I will say both teams did a great job of checking shops.
Oh yeah, I had to get into the habit of it.
And we also saw some pretty good resource management all around. I mean, while both of you ended up with nearly 2,000 rupees, there was never any idle time where you weren't farming rupees when you should have been. So that was really cool to see. Like, we got to see kind of some optimal strategy decisions being made. Despite the fact that you can never be sure about whether a hint is the right hint to make early on, both teams really showed and displayed the potential of a multi-world strategy, which I thought was really exciting to see. It was a great privilege to be able to commentate for you guys today, and a really awesome race to watch.
Yeah, I definitely want to watch this one back.
Yeah, for sure.
Me too. I want to see the other team strategy and map spaghetti for Factorio.
How about those boots, though?
Oh man, those boots. Don't even remind me.
Yeah, it's really cool to be able to play in these ways, and I recommend everyone to check it. There are more games being added, and I think it's a perfect excuse to learn more games. Fun.
I certainly agree with those sentiments. Archipelago.gg or discord.gg/archipelago. Come on in and join us. So I believe we still have some time for closing out, but I do want to ask, just to give you guys the floor. I'll start with Bolas Azules. Do you guys have any final thoughts on this seed or really the tournament itself?
It's fun. I don't know. It's hard to keep track of how many hints you've done, when you can do it, and the in-game hints and everything. It's more different than it seems. I recommend everyone to check it out.
For me, it's like the first tournament I play, let's say, international. So I'm pretty excited and scared at the same time. I really enjoy playing this, but also I know that my opponents are very strong. I have played for thousands of hours on Factorio, but I know I'm not a good player with planning ahead and doing things. So I'm learning a lot and I'm enjoying a lot the experience. So maybe I think for the next time we can play this.
And hey, what could be more in the spirit of Factorio than growing the factory together, right?
Yeah, it's hard, and also the randomizer part is you cannot even think about what can you need later, because if you, for example, you can start making rare signals or something, and that's trash for the end game if it's not needed. I don't know. It's really fun to play.
Well, on that note, Kippi and Always in Treble, what are your thoughts, coming out of this? I believe this is the end of the tournament for you. You going to Disney World?
with one win? No, I don't think so. No, I lost to you.
Hey, I'm allowed to laugh because that's the only win I got.
Yeah, this is the only one I got, so.
I'll just order a pizza and call it a day.
There's worse things you can do.
I get enough for
that's not
pizza.
my goals. I think that's actually a plan. We're all getting pizza.
Yes.
All right, well, I think that just about does it for us today. Of course, this is not the last match of the tournament. There is still something to be added yet to the schedule. For Sunday, I believe, is the final match. This is a round-robin style tournament, 2-player teams, 5 teams total. Hopefully next year for SGL 22, we can have, 50 teams. Let's get everybody in on Archipelago. That'd be a lot of fun. Maybe that'd be really hard to organize.
Way more games, too. Oh, lordy.
Well, hey, I would love to have preliminary competition and not squeeze it all in 1 week.
Yeah, for sure.
Which was definitely challenging.
Definitely good to see this grow, and if anyone is interested in just partaking in these Multiworlds or wants to even do some races, there's a lot of practice races in the Archipelago Discord. You can join that, as well as check out the Archipelago website to help you get set up on doing Multiworlds yourself. Whether it's Factorio, Link to the Past, or any of the other supported games like Minecraft, Subnautica, Ocarina of Time, some roguelikes like Slay the Spire and Rain 2. Alright, and our
Time Spinner.
Time Spinner. Yeah, I was getting
The one
to
that I've been playing a lot of recently.
Time Spinner is good. I recommend it.
We all have our games that we cheat on with other side games, and Risk of Rain for me. But hey, any randomizer devs out there, we would love to include you too. Bring your game in. There's currently plans in motion for a few, so come join the party. We have pizza.
Sure do. But it's all mine.
Wow. You have spaghetti. Why do you need pizza?
Yeah, you're right.
Look, why not both? You can totally have pasta on your pizza. There's no reason you can't.
Very true. That's very true. And
garnish with a side of moon pearl and red scrap and what's the prawn suit, and we're just a big old pizza with a lot of toppings. That's Archipelago for you in a nutshell.
All the toppings from all the other games.
All right, puns aside, that's about it for us today. My voice is shot. That's 2 races in 1 day. I'm dead. So barring any final thoughts or anybody wants to share, I'm just going to close it out. I'm Eudaimonistic. Thank you for tuning in to Speed Gaming 3. Follow all the Speed Gaming channels. SG Live is still running, and we'd love to see you participate in this one next year. So thanks for tuning in, folks. We will see you Sunday for what I believe is the penultimate race of this tournament, and it has been a pleasure.
I think there's one more on Saturday that needs to be scheduled as well, with Team We're Sorry and Horse Lord.
We will see you tomorrow for Bad Moons and Umenin versus Berserker and Kono Tyrant. Maybe they're against each other. And Sunday for the penultimate and penultimate races in reverse order. I've had enough. That's it for me. You guys have a fantastic evening and morning or whatever it is. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for all the commentary today, Udai.
It's a pleasure. You guys are fun.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks to everyone involved, commentary and admins of the tournament and everything. It's fun. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, shout outs to EG for helping organize this, and Speed Gaming for hosting this.
Yeah, big shout outs to Fiesel. Thank you.
Yes, agreed.
Yes, always.
Alrighty, folks. Have a great day.
Good night.
Bye bye.